How do you determine if your team is being successful or not? What guidance are you giving them going forward? Today, I'm going to outline a couple of really simple questions that you can leverage to unlock the logjam that stands in the way of your team's progress. The questions I'm about to share have prompted some of the biggest breakthroughs for my team and the clients I work with, and I want you to have the same experience. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is grab a pen and a piece of paper because I want to encourage you to take massive notes. I say that because the answers your team gives to the questions that I'm about to ask are going to prompt new ideas and new aha moments. To start, I encourage you to create some space for your team to reflect back on the last 6 months. I have to imagine a lot has happened this year, both personally and professionally in your business. I am confident that there are some things that you experienced over the last 6 months that you expected. And I'm also confident that if we're being honest with each other, that there are some things that you experienced that you didn't expect. And I'm going to give you a simple exercise that you can use with your team. This exercise is a set of simple questions, just stitched together in the right order. These are the same questions I ask my team and the same questions I ask of my clients. If you and your team, I will tell you this, if you and your team give each one of these questions some serious thought, I promise you that nothing but positive breakthroughs will emerge. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to start with what I call 3 core questions for you to ask your team. The first is this: what did you accomplish? I told you they were simple, right? Encourage your team to reflect back on everything they did over the last 6 months and encourage them to identify like the areas, like what are they most proud of. Don't rush this. I mean, seriously, encourage them to think through this in a couple of passes. Give them the space to do that. Have them capture the big stuff on the first pass. Like what are the 2 or 3 major things they accomplished? And then as you go on to like the second or third time through the exercise, like ask them to dig a little deeper. Like what else? Have them think about some of the minor stuff that appeared minor in the beginning but ended up having a major impact. We've all had situations like that. And do this a couple times. At first, what's going to happen is your team's going to find this hard, right? They're going to find it harder to remember everything. If that's the case, just ask them to pull out their calendar if they need be and scan through each month, right? Just to kind of remind them what happened. One leader I work with actually did this with their team, and after a few minutes of seeing them struggle, one of their employees started to name a bunch of stuff, and then without even prompted, just like blurted out like, "Holy shit, like I accomplished a ton." And she was like so excited to share that story with me, and you could just see the energy shift that she had. So I encourage you to ask your team, what did they accomplish, right? See, way too many leaders are so fixated on getting to the next thing, right, that they rarely give their team the space to pause for a moment to express gratitude and appreciation for what they actually did or what they actually achieved. Try this. I guarantee your team accomplished a lot more than both you and them give yourselves credit for. Okay, the next question is this: what didn't you achieve that is still important? That's a great question to ask your team. Ask your team to reflect on those overzealous goals they set at the beginning of the year. What didn't they achieve that is still important? Asking this question serves 2 purposes. One, it serves as a friendly reminder, and it serves also as a filter. Let me explain. See, many times what you thought was important in the beginning of the year, as time goes on, is no longer as important as what it once was. And there's a lot of satisfaction that you get by just crossing something off the list that simply doesn't matter anymore. Asking this question also serves as a much needed kick in the ass for those things that you really want to get to, but for whatever reason, you've been putting them off. You've been deflecting them for whatever reason. See, my team and I just did this recently. We had a mid-year planning session, and this question in particular helped us to get recalibrated on some big projects that we really wanted to accomplish that we set out for in the beginning of the year. It also, by asking this question, it prompted a fresh look at those objectives, which led to some really cool discussions, which also led to some even better ideas, which then led to some adjustments to the original plan. Bam! Breakthrough, right? In fact, we were all saying that it was a blessing that we hadn't achieved them in the beginning of the year, because now we're in a much better position today to work on them than we were if we actually started working on them in the beginning of the year. Crazy, right? I encourage you to do the same with your team. Instead of beating them up for what they didn't do, you as a leader should reframe and refocus their intention. Maybe your team, right, is better equipped today to attack the projects that you set out for. Sometimes what you didn't accomplish is in fact a blessing. It just may be the beginning of a whole new breakthrough waiting to happen. And that was what our team experienced. Okay, the third question to ask your team is this: what did you learn? Right? This is hands down my favorite question, and it's the one that usually stops people in their tracks. It's the one that causes people to think the most. In my opinion, leaders need to ask this question more often. What did you learn? Right? We have a saying on our team that goes something like this, like teaching without learning is just talking. See, and we say that because we believe that every leader is a teacher. And to be a great teacher, we believe passionately that one must first become a great student. And if that's the case, it begs the question, as a student, what did you learn? I mean, conscious awareness and self-reflection are acquired skills. What did your team learn over the past 6 months, right? Challenge your team to answer this question thoroughly, like to really take some time to unpack it. Don't just give it a quick passing. And I say that because these 3 core questions, what I call core questions, serve as a great foundation. And once you have that baseline, it's now time to focus your team forward, to begin to think about the second half of the year. And with that said, I want to give you a couple additional questions to seed them with. First is this: what advice would they give themselves? I mean, given everything your team experienced in the first half of the year, what advice would they give themselves? This is a major problem for leaders. And I'm going to say this and I believe this passionately. Too many leaders are so focused on doing that they seldom stop to consciously teach their team how to give themselves advice. This is like one problem leaders face that nobody wants to talk about it. It's time that someone started talking about it and showing leaders how to solve it. The questions I'm sharing with you today are a great place to start. Ask your team, what should they start doing? What should they stop doing? What should they experiment? Every leader, regardless of your industry or business, should be asking their team these questions on a daily and weekly basis. I'm sharing them here with you in the context of a mid-year checkpoint. But seriously, think about this for a second. These are the very questions my team and my clients talk about all the time. Why? Because the answers to those questions contain a ton of advice. To champion growth, every leader needs the team around them which has the ability to give themselves advice. You have to encourage your team to do more self-reflection. Many leaders don't value solitude, right? They don't value that. And when I coach and train leaders, this is where we start, right? This is important. This is where we start. You know the saying that goes, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. You have to teach your team how to fish. If the leaders on your team cannot lead themselves, how are they ever going to lead other people? Seriously, think about this for a second, right? If a leader cannot lead themselves, why in the hell would anyone want to follow them, right? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't. So ask your team, what advice would they give themselves? What should they start doing? What should they stop doing? What should they experiment with? These questions are their answers to these questions are filled with a ton of advice. If you haven't had a couple breakthrough moments, aha moments already, this next question will most certainly prompt one. Who can help you achieve your goals? The question to teach your team to ask is not how are they going to do something, but instead, who can help them? Bam! Breakthrough. See, so many leaders are so stuck in thinking they have to figure everything out on their own. I can say this with a lot of sincerity because this used to be me. For years, I used to wonder how am I going to do X, Y, and Z? And that thought process just led to so much stress, right? And frustration of all the things I needed to do. Everything changed for me when I learned to reframe the question to being who can help me. Teach your team to ask, what are they trying to achieve? And then who has the skills to help them? Who can help accelerate their learning, right? Who can help them accelerate getting from point A to point B? If I was you, I would encourage them to reach out to that person immediately. Since we're midway through the year, now is the perfect time to teach your team to ask these questions. This exercise, trust me, is easy to do. Guess what? It's also easy not to do. The choice as a leader is yours. The questions I shared today are intended to make your team think. And I did this on purpose. I did this on purpose because reflective thinking provides valuable insight. And when you encourage your team to stop, right, to stop doing and start thinking and evaluate their progress, and you give them permission to make the necessary adjustments that will move them closer to the results they desire, breakthroughs happen. Leaders at every level have a responsibility to champion growth for their team and their business. That responsibility starts by teaching your team to ask some core, basic questions of themselves. Questions that will help them play authentically big. Not sometimes, not when convenient, not just for a project, but I'm talking about all the time. Growth champions ignite change by teaching their team to implement small, minor adjustments to their daily routines. They're going to help them chip away at the results they desire. Every small and seemingly insignificant adjustment your team makes and implements will compound itself over time if they stick with it. But you know what? They got to stick with it. Simple fact, right? Remember, you always have a choice. Don't worry about where you are, what you've done, or even what you failed to do. Today, like every single day, is a new beginning. You have an opportunity to encourage your team to make a conscious commitment to growing themselves, right? Encourage them to reflect in gratitude on what they've accomplished, and then tell them to be proud of that. Be proud of what they've learned. And then, because what they learned brought them to this moment, and then encourage them to leverage that learning, leverage what they learned as a foundation to build upon, and encourage them to seek guidance and help from others who can help accelerate their growth even further and help them champion growth to an even greater level. All right, if you like this video, if you got some nugget out of this, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, share a key takeaway in the comments, and of course subscribe, because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember, you're just one idea away. Talk to you soon.